Our story begins like most others do, within one singular place in space and time, beyond the hordes of Casterbarus, the Nightmare Spawns and the Halloway Kings. There roamed a ship, just one, on the edge of the universe. It had been there for a while. Like so many others, its story was unknown, lost through the winds of time. Suddenly, a gushing sound of something approached. It sounded like multiple engines bellowing out in ache as they forced their sounds into existence. A blue box span along its axis towards the ship, the light flashing on and off on the top. Inside the blue box, a man worked at the controls. Like a symphony, he played on the many controls of the ship. He pulled a few levers and flicked some switches. A scanner opens, revealing the ship. The man was perplexed. This man was the Doctor. This version of the Doctor was newly regenerated, maybe 3 days old. He was fresh, new, and ready for adventures. This new version of the Doctor was still discovering himself, even if he did have a resemblance to the leader of Torchwood 4. But that was neither here nor there. For now, the new Doctor checks the scanner, talking to his TARDIS. "Now, what brings you out here?" he wondered, putting his hands into his pockets, wondering about why this ship would be out here, and trying to create logical solutions rather than make up an excuse in his head. But with a sigh, he muttered, "Oh, here we go again." He moved around the console, pulling on the levers attached to the central console, and suddenly the rotor in the middle began its upwards and downward spiral. The ship engaged its landing sequence, while its pilot looked up at the other ship through the scanner, worryingly. Inside the ship in question, there was a small circular corridor. The small blue box materialized into formation, the light on top flashing on and off until the box had fully appeared. Once it had, the Doctor stepped from the box, wearing a red tie, brown waistcoat and round spectacles, inspecting every inch of the spectacular place from the moment he exited his own craft. Right, now, that is unexpected. His discovery was quite sound. The ship wasn't a dreary, murky aesthetic, but quite clear, clean. A very Hitchhiker type scenario. Along the corridors were cameras, one 10 steps after the other. The Doctor took notice of this, putting on a face of intrigue, wanting to know more. Right, well, I guess we should see what's in store. He moved forwards through the corridors, looking around for anything out of place, but he found nothing. There were no clues. There was no hook that would lead him along the line to the sinker. As he walked through, the cameras began to turn, following his every move. Automated cameras or possibly remote control? I don't know about this. The man kept pondering on that question as he moved further down the corridors. Eventually, he approached a steel door, spotting a keypad at the side. He inspected the technology, trying to make assumptions on which century this could originate from. He reached out his hand out to the buttons, as if to attempt inputting a sequence of numbers, but he hesitated. He had a realization that this may set off a chain of events that could lead to eventual disaster. Instead, he produced his sonic screwdriver, activating it immediately on the door, buzzing away at the lock to find the right sequence. Finally, the door opened with a quick swish. The man looked inside. It was a control deck, the front of the ship. He hesitated again, being quite aware of the numerous amounts of times he was lured into a trap like this. But eventually, after some thought, he walked through the passage, muttering, "Oh, I have a bad feeling about this." The Doctor walked further onto the control deck, again seeing the cameras following his every move. He made his way to the controls and glanced over them, trying to familiarise himself again with the century that this technology could originate from. But to his surprise, many of the controls were, by sheer impossibility, all from different time periods. There were holographic panels interconnected with a spinal wheel attached to a typewriter. Hang on, this isn't right. He was taken aback. How could these systems be functioning in any kind of capacity? He began to think, how could this ship possibly exist? A botched time machine project? An alternate reality? Or possibly...
I'll cut to the chase for you. It's a trap.
The Doctor jumped back. He looked around the room, darting his eyes in every direction, searching for the origin of the voice, but there was no one in the room with him.
Now you're probably wondering, oh, it's a spaceship out on the edge of the universe, old and new controls, clean as a whistle, there has to be more to this. Well, it's not. It's just a trap. For you.
The Doctor looked over to see an old 1960s telephone box attached to a 21st century Bluetooth speaker, the source of the voice, and he marched over to it as if the other person was in the room with him. And they started to talk. Who are you?
Well, that is the question. Who? Never the why or the how.
I'm not going to repeat myself.
Oh, very touchy. I didn't expect that from you.
Well, this whole scenario has been a real waste of my time, thanks for that, and I'm in no mood for it to continue.
Well, that's just fantastic.
Oh, and why?
Because you're about to shuffle off this mortal coil momentarily.
Wait, what? The Doctor rushed away quickly from the communication unit, making his way back to the door, which he noticed was now beginning to shut. He held out his sonic screwdriver, buzzing it at the door controls, causing them to spark, but also allowing him to slide under the still open part of the entrance. Whoa! He then immediately collected himself, now making his way back to the box, desperate to leave this place in order to assess the situation before confronting the one behind this. Unfortunately, he was in for a nasty surprise when he reached it.
Stop!
The man stopped in his tracks. There stood in front of him was the man behind this charade, cloaked, hiding their face beneath a hood. The Doctor was shocked, but also confused. Why are you doing this? What's the whole point of dragging me into this mysterious game when there's no mystery?
Because it isn't. That's just it. It's so simple, Doctor. I'm going to kill you.
Okay, right. Firstly, how do you know my name? And how do you plan on doing that exactly?
Well, I was hoping you'd have stayed put in the control deck, but I shouldn't have put hope in this mangled mess of a ship.
So, now what?
Plan B. Step inside.
The figure pressed his hand on a panel, the door appearing immediately as he does so, folding up into the ceiling. The Doctor observed this with intrigue, curiosity, and a sense of dread. No, I'm not going in that. A laser shot is fired, hitting the Doctor in the shoulder. He gripped it, aching in pain. Now the Doctor, gripping onto his shoulder, faced his villain with fierce anger. Why would you do that?
Because it is really that simple. That's a stun setting, but again, very simple. Now make it easy and just get in. It'll make taking your ship a whole lot easier.
So that's what it's all been about?
Oh, quite the contrary. It's actually a small bonus. This, however, is the cash prize. Now get in.
The Doctor looked to the small entrance and walked over slowly. He stepped into a small room and he sat himself down, still holding his shoulder from the pain, which was continuing to persist. Oh, whatever you plan to do, it won't work. I will... The figure closed the door, sealing the man inside, still looking at him through a glass window.
Oh, I know of your abilities, and trust me, they won't work.
How do you know?
Oh, that's very simple.
The figure removed his hood. The Doctor was shocked. The figure standing before him, the man who had caused him all this torment, had his brand new face. The one he wore now.
Because I share those same qualities myself.
No. That's my How can you...
Oh, I don't think there's time for a full explanation. I don't expect you to be able to work it out.
He pressed a button, where we hear the sound of the airlock being activated. The air begins to dissipate from the airlock, the man that desperately tries to hold on, but to no avail. No, this can't be...
From the vacuum of space.
The Doctor falls out of the airlock, floating out into the vast emptiness of space. The Doctor was smart. He was an alien. But right now those abilities were quickly failing him, and he couldn't see an option that would allow him to survive this. Back inside the ship, the figure motioned towards the box, a large grin on his face. The Doctor's face. Pleased with the outcome of the situation, he had done it. As if assuming the Doctor's identity, almost. He had completed his task, his goal, the one thing stopping him from achieving the ultimate power, the Doctor himself. Now all that was left was the rest of the universe.
Finally, I have it. The whole universe is mine too.
Suddenly, as he is about to place his hands on the TARDIS handle, the box began to fade with a high, graspy sound, spinning into the air and flying through the walls of the ship. Perplexed, the man rushed around to a window, only to see the box starting to solidify around the Doctor before flying away to safety. This man was furious.
No!
He slammed his arms against the wall of the ship, frustrated that he wasn't able to kill the Doctor. He sees now the challenge will be much greater, especially when his TARDIS is always around to save the day. Back inside the TARDIS, the Doctor laid on the floor in the control room, recovering his airflow but alive. He began to wake, rubbing his eyes and rising, holding onto the console as a crutch. He pulled himself back up to standing level. Well, I'm alive, thankfully. The Doctor looked at his hands. He rubbed his face again. Oh, well, no change. That would be embarrassing. Oh, that's good. Wait. The Doctor began to type into the controls, realising that the TARDIS had taken him far away from the danger for his own safety. Oh no, old girl, I needed to know! Who was that man? Why was he there? Why did he have my face? Because that certainly wasn't me, I would have sensed it, old girl. Now, where is he now? The Doctor flicked a switch. The scanner opened, showing the same spot in space and time right after he left. But there was nothing. The ship was gone. Not a single trace of it anywhere. The Doctor was frustrated, disappointed, and angry. He was back in the same spot, but no answers. The Doctor had a moment of reflection, trying to make sense of what happened. All that time, wasted. Whoever that imposter was, he's still out there, acting in my name. The Doctor held onto the console, staring at the time rotor, lost in his thoughts, trying to find a solution that would satisfy him. I'm not going to let this go, old girl. I need answers, and I'm going to find them now. He walked around the console, inputting the same sequence of controls as he usually did, activating the flight pattern. The Doctor approached a lever, the look of intent in his eyes, the defiance within them. He then shut his eyes and pulled the lever down, sending him and the TARDIS flying into the vortex, off into the universe, off to the next confrontation.